Hey, it's Soul with another video, and I'm finally going to talk about the Netherlight Crucible, this thing that people have been kind of bitching about for the past couple of weeks, actually, because we still didn't quite know what was going on, at least not until now. So in order to unlock this Netherlight Crucible, basically once 7.3 comes out, after 14 or so days of content and doing stuff and unlocking this and that, ta-da, we get the Netherlight Crucible. And as a reminder, once you unlock it the first time on like your main tune, then you'll be able to have this unlocked on everyone. So cool beans there. So when we open this thing up, we get this weird little UI. And from there we see these three, we see each of our three relics as shown right here, as well as a bunch of these little dot things. These are different traits that we can pump points into depending on our artifact level. Now, regarding our artifact level, let's talk about just what sorts of milestones that we want to hit. So in order to unlock these first couple of traits, that doesn't take too much at all. Chances are you have this thing already unlocked. In order to get to the second tier, you need to have your artifact level at 60, 63, and 66 respectively. So kind of what you might want to have in mind is that by the time the Netherlight Crucible is unlocked, you want to try to have your level, you want to try to at least be at 60. Like my character happens to be at 59 and a half right now, so it's not gonna be too much of a hurdle for me to get to at least 60. Also keep in mind that when day one of 7.3 occurs, we're all going to be bumped up to knowledge level 41, which is a pretty significant bump, and that'll get us going, and I'll provide a guide on what we can do there later. In order to access this third tree, which is the more controversial tree, we need to get our artifact weapon to levels 69, 72, and 75 respectively. So once you hit artifact level 75, you can stop giving a shit about artifact power outright. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of bonus you can still get from your concordance and all that, but at least the sense of urgency when it comes to trying to power your weapon up and everything, it ends there. So pretty much your goal for 7.3 is to get to artifact level 75 so you can get your maximum trait, your maximum trait potential, and then from there you'll be ready for like the Antorus raid and everything. And then from there you just want to make sure that you have the right relics and so on and so forth. But let's just start getting to that. Now, as said, you need to be at least level 60 in order to unlock the second tier stuff, so you can unlock some of these fancy schmancy abilities. And let's take a look really quick. Here we get like a passive mastery and avoidance buff. Here we get a proc that will do damage as well as create a shield. Now, I did some testing on this the other day with the previous character that I did get to artifact level 60 on the PTR, and that's because the artifact knowledge level here is like at 46 or 47 or something like that, and I was able to get like hundreds of millions of artifact power per quest, so that was pretty nice. Anyway, when I was testing this though, I did find that the proc per minute of each of these abilities is really low. It looks to be so far to just be set at 1 proc per minute. Now of course this is the PTR and all of this is subject to change, but that sounds really shitty right now. Having a 1 proc per minute for something like this does not seem very reliable at all. And that's also considering that there is a legendary that's associated with the Netherlight Crucible. This legendary will increase the effect of our of whatever traits that we happen to choose, whether it's the passive, well, maybe the passive, I'm not quite sure, but definitely the on-proc abilities. But even then, depending on the trait that you're choosing, they don't seem to be very strong considering the proc per minute raise. This might be something that you can entirely ignore or consider a passive. You can almost think of this as these three traits that you choose are going to be sort of like a weapon enchant for your artifact weapon, because we haven't seen any of those. So you can kind of sort of ignore these and focus mostly on these on the final tree, or these trait enhancements that everyone's been kind of complaining about. So I'm taking a look at my first relic. It gives my Ardent Defender, it reduces the cooldown of my Ardent Defender by a couple of seconds, which is my favorite which is my favorite kind of trait. From there, though, I get to choose any of these other traits to supplement myself with, such as increasing my armor, or enhancing my Shield of the Righteous or my Judgment. And then from there, I just kind of choose my favorite. And then I just do that respectively for each of these. But of course, it's going to be a while until you can choose this stuff. Again, you got to be at artifact level 75, which might take a little while for you. And in the meantime, there's a pretty decent chance that your relics could change as well. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, when you choose something here, there's no takebacks. Once you choose one, you can't undo this change, which kind of sucks. So these trees are definitely tied to whatever relic that you have here, so choose wisely. Otherwise, if you make a shitty choice, then you might find yourself having to like replace your relic with something entirely new so you can reroll the traits and what have you, which would really, really suck. Now, when it comes to the possibility of what traits might populate this lower tree here, it's pretty much random, with the exception that you're not going to be able to see the same trait twice. That's to avoid a huge stacking of traits. Like, you don't want to have like 2 points of the same trait here that'll give you 6, and then on top of whatever you have on your artifact weapon, that'll get you to like 10, and that's pretty ridiculous. That would make my Ardent Defender, it would make my Ardent Defender possibly go off, like every 30 seconds or so, and I think that would be a little bit broken. So that's not going to happen. Pretty much the most, the highest possible trait level that you would get would be I think like 7. But again, the traits that populate this lower tree are going to be random. I did re-roll my tune multiple times, and I see different traits that populate all of these. It would be different every time, with the exception of the first one that's pretty fixed. It just increases your item level. From here, though, looking ahead at the Antor's raid and what we'll possibly be doing with like all these different relics and whatnot, I can understand when players are like, oh, well, this sucks. This, it's RNG on top of RNG or something like that, where you gotta hope for a good relic. You gotta hope that it has a high item level, and then you gotta hope for good traits that populate both the second and third tree, because if it's not, then it's not going to matter. And well, I guess I get that. In my opinion, though, I think that this is a problem that is more for like, the upper echelons of raiding and other PvE content who are looking to, really min-max. And it really comes down to the belief system that possibility equates to expectation. It's like, okay, I must have, 7 traits, and I must have 950 or whatever the heck the item level is going to be. It must have a super high item level, and it has to have the traits that I want, and it has to have the passives or whatever that I want in the second tree. Otherwise, it's garbage. And I think that's not fair. For me, I've long accepted the fact that the idea of best in slot is just kind of dead, and this is just kind of this is just Blizzard's way of drilling into you that yes, there is no best in slot, just deal with it, and just kind of deal with, I guess along with like between the stats and all the benefits of a particular item or trait or whatever that you're going to get. Consider the possibility of how unlikely it is to get that, and then redetermine what you think is your best in slot from there. For someone like me, though, who is just a heroic raider, I'm a tank, and considering my needs and whatnot, the Netherlight Crucible, like my final judgment on what I think of this system, I just don't care about it. It's very, very passive when it comes down to it. The only real thought process that comes to mind is I gotta hit level 75 or so on my weapon, and from there I get everything that I want. And as for what it is, I'll just take what I can get, and if it happens to be cool, but if not, I will not put a single bit of effort into attempting to try to like re-roll stuff or try to farm for relics. But speaking of relics, let me just get out of here, and I'll walk conveniently like right over here to this guy. You guys might remember this guy. He's the one that gave us all those cool little relinquished tokens and what have you. and he's back. He's over here. He's over here on the vendor card, which is going to be our hub, and he sells a bunch of these relinquished relics, and these are targeted relics. It's not going to be like totally random like it was before. We can absolutely farm for these now, but I can go for the relics that are important for me. Oh, here they are: the arcane, the holy, and the iron relic, and then of course I can change it to whatever the heck other spec that I want to. So at least I have like some agency there. And by the way, as you can see that these are 9-10 relics, so at least you can get started with trying to reroll for like good stuff. But it's not, for me again, it's not something that I'm going to prioritize at all. For me, it's just like, okay, you know, I'll go for the good item level. There's at least 1 or 2 traits that I consider to be decent, and I'll just go for those. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But if it is for you, all right, cool. But hey, you know what? Share your thoughts and stay breezy.